Yes, quite extraordinary and not something many would have predicted, if anyone would have predicted, that Germany end up bottom of that Group F table. It is Sweden and Mexico who advanced to the round of 16. Sweden who have beaten Mexico by 3-0 this afternoon, and that has secured their place in the knockout stages. Korea Republic will have some consolation, having probably recorded one of their most historic wins ever in their World Cup history. So an element of disappointment for Korea as they go home as well. But Didi, for Germany, I know prior to the tournament you had some reservations, you had some concerns, but surely there was no way you could have anticipated Germany going out of the competition like this.
No, I didn't. I didn't think the group was as easy as people may have thought. And you can go out in a group stage of a World Cup, but you can't go the way Germany did. They've not played a good half hour, a good half. Even against Sweden, it was more willpower and attitude what got him through. And there was for the 3 games there was no fluidity, there was no cohesion. We may find out in the next few weeks whether there's been divisions in the camp. Then you had that Erdogan gate before the start of the tournament, the FA never really dealt with. Then you've got these official after the Sweden game taunt in the Swedes when we scored in the 95th minute, and just ill-disciplined complacency. Yeah. I don't want to be too harsh on them because they've been to the semi-final for the last 7 tournaments. But as I said, I think from the start they didn't give themselves a chance to really get the best results in Russia this year, and yeah, very disappointing end to a hugely disappointing tournament for Germany.
Michael, you know, as an international manager, the key to success very often is finding your team. Yeah. And you've experienced it with Northern Ireland, that you got a good team ethic, like a club side it's often been compared to. Yeah. That didn't appear to be the case on this occasion with Germany, that Jogi Löw never found what should have been his first 11.
No, clearly not. You know, I look back at the team that we played, Germany team that we played in France, and I think when we played them again in qualification, it was virtually the same team, bar maybe one player. So there wasn't a lot of changes over a period of, 12 months. But clearly going into the tournament, Didi touched on it with, 19 outfield players being used. They just never found the formula. And I think what it does show is that whether they're not as prepared as they could be or whatever you want to say, is that every team that comes into this tournament, there's an element of fragility to them all. All of the big teams, we've seen that. And if you don't get the right start, if things suddenly, it's amazing how the confidence can go away. Confidence in players can be lost and through one performance. And I've never seen a Germany team so disjointed, so devoid of ideas, and they were playing like 2-4-4. We didn't think that Korea had enough quality to hurt them. They eventually get the goal. It's a bit of a freak goal to begin with, and then the second goal is just a calamity really, with Neuer out of the goal. And it was just it just unravelled in the last 15 minutes for Germany completely.
Prior to the tournament, should we have been paying maybe a little bit more heed to the run-in as far as the friendlies were concerned? They had 3 draws, 2 defeats, and just the 1 victory over Saudi Arabia. Was that sort of maybe a signpost we should have paid a little more heed to? Possibly,
but then again, we've seen it in the past that the results in the warm-up games haven't been too good, and once you get to a tournament, it's different. There's so many competitive games these days for them, because these guys, most of them play in the Champions League, so they play 50, 55, 60 games a season. And sometimes when you play a friendly game, you don't play with the same intention. And I think they thought, I'm sure there were cracks in the camp, but they thought, once we get the first game out of the way against Mexico, we'll paper over. And we beat them 4-1 in the Confed Cup with a team with not many first-choice players. And I think we've got to get away from the thinking we are Germany and our tournament starts when we are the group. No, we've got to earn the right to play in the knockout stage. This time we didn't earn that right. And I think what summed the whole thing up, Manuel Neuer is a fantastic keeper. He's with De Gea probably the best keeper in the world. Yeah. Now we're 2-0 down. We need 3 goals at this stage, or 1-0 down at the time. So we need 2 goals. So he plays like an outfield player. I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it. We conceded the second goal. Staying goalies, everybody's there to do a job. So what rode him to go out there? And I think it summed the whole tournament up, that it's been an ill-disciplined camp where most people did what they wanted to do, what was right for them. not necessarily right for the team.
Yeah, well, we've had some surprises so far at this World Cup, but that has to go down as a shock, and by far and away the biggest shock of this tournament so far. The line will be Germany are out of the 2018 World Cup. Michael, we're going to take a look at the first goal, keeping in mind that at this stage of the game, Germany still had a chance, if they only got one goal, to go through to the knockout stages.
Yeah, there was 6 minutes of injury time. It took an eternity for the corner to be taken because there was an injury. But he looks offside, clearly. You know, he's standing in an offside position. The assistant on that side gives the offside. As we see, the flag is raised. But after deliberation from our friends in Moscow and then communication with the referee, we see clearly it's Tony Kroos that pokes the ball back, goes through Sula's legs, and as a result, you know, Kim isn't offside because Tony Kroos has played the pass, and Neuer, it's the last gasp of tank. But it's a comical goal, really. You know, at that point, you've got 6 minutes to get a goal to stay in the World Cup, and then you concede a goal of this nature, and you give yourself a mountain decline in 2 goals. And it was just really, really poor. You know, it's a poor. Like South Korea, I think maybe only had 2 men in the box for the corner. They were happy with 0-0, and obviously then they go and win the game 2-0.
The only thing, obviously, we talked about VAR before. That's why it's there for, and it worked perfectly well. The only reason, or the only thing I don't understand, why does the referee need to go and have a look? They can tell him it comes off the German player, it's a goal. You know, it's another 2, 3, 4 minute break for no reason. You know, everybody can see. You know,
he's not taking their word, is he? He's deciding, well, I'll check as well.
I think clearly they want to be seen that the referee makes the decision as opposed to being told that, you know, because obviously at the game, the assistant on the far side has given the goal as offside. Okay, so they want then, I think, for the referee to go back, review it, and then say, no, actually, it is a goal, even though clearly I would say they're telling him in his air it's a clear goal. Yeah,
but of course, ultimately, the decision has to be made by the referee.
It's almost like a token gesture for him to go to the VAR, I think, sometimes in that situation.
Yeah, and Diddy, you weren't at all happy with what transpired after that because, I suppose Germany felt it's all hands to the pump, and Manuel Neuer, who likes to go for a wander when needs be, but this was unnecessary, you felt?
Yeah, but you don't wander past your last defender, and he's been playing there for 5 minutes almost, because I think we played that 98 minutes. There was before that there was Sule, who didn't have the keeper to play the ball back to, and look at this, he's got 4 players behind him. You know, this is I think it borders on embarrassment, and if I was a manager, I wouldn't be a happy chap, because I don't think it shows the team, I don't think it shows German football in a good light, because this is not what you expect from a German team. You play to the final whistle, you play to the last minute, and he's up there as an outfield player. What rode him, I do not know, and I've not really got an excuse for that sort of behaviour. They scored the second goal. I think it didn't really matter at the time, but I think it just summed up the spirit and the way they thought in the German camp, that it was more divided and probably more selfish than I've ever seen a German team play. Yeah, because that's interesting, Michael, because you played them twice during the qualifiers. They impressed during the qualifiers. Do you think since then they've deteriorated, and all the nonsense and hassle that went on in the camp, that has been a huge contributory factor? Because they were good in qualifying. Yeah, clearly it has been. I mean, they're very impressive in qualifying. People will say the group was maybe not the toughest group with ourselves, Czech Republic, Azerbaijan, Norway, but they won the 10 games. In the 2 games they played against us, they were very, very impressive. It's a mountain for us to try and overcome Germany. But clearly what's happened between qualification and obviously going to the tournament, there has been a regression in the team, or an uncertainty in the team. We've seen, obviously, he left Wagner out from Bayern Munich, the big striker. He left Sané out. He's left some big players out of his squad as well. But equally, when they went, he had the same substitutions all the time. We've seen Brand, we've seen Gomez. Today we see Muller come on, Royce in the other game. It was almost as if, he just had, this is what I'll do if it's not going the way we want it to go. And as I say, I'm amazed that haven't seen this German team firsthand and played them 3 times in the last couple of years. What we saw there was just so out of character. Yeah, and Diddy, one of the things that Germany more often than not has is a devastating finisher. Down through the years, whether it be from Gerd Müller right through to Jürgen Klinsmann, and more recently Thomas Müller, who hasn't had a good World Cup. He was marked absent, really. So
that was I mean, we're going to see some chances here now that normally you'd expect Germany to put away.
Yes, but the centre forward position has been an issue because Klose, I think, was 36 or 37 when we went to the World Cup last time around. This is Goretzka with a decent chance. And yes, of course, you expect them to put one of these chances away. This is a good play by Özil here.
These are good chances.
It's actually a good hit by Werner. Well, Werner is a player who just arrived on the scene. He's got goals for Leipzig. He's got a couple in the Champions League. This is a whole new territory. This is a great chance here for Gomez. You expect him to do better, play of his calibre. Either side of the keeper yard, I think the ball might have been in. And the best chance then later falls to Hummels. But there were chances. I wouldn't call him. I think the best chance is obviously Hummels. This is a great block because the South Koreans defended tremendously well. But the centre forward position been a problem for the last 2 decades because apart from Klose, we didn't have anybody, and it doesn't seem to get any better. And this is really the chance. 5 minutes to go, where Hummels has to score. It comes off his shoulder, goes wide, and after that you thought maybe we get one more, but probably not. And I think, the Germans at this stage they felt it's not to be, and I think with the pressure you've got on playing, with a chance of getting knocked out, I think it got to them. This is a chance. I think when it was already 1 or 2-0, by then it was too late. But the South Korean defended well, and then they weren't clinical enough in front of goal. But at the same time, you've got to say, I think the way they played in the 3 games, they didn't deserve to go through.
Diddy, what will the reaction in Germany be to this?
Well, there'll be huge criticism, and there's been some personal criticism after that first game against Mexico, aimed at a couple of players, especially Özil. I hope that won't be the case, but you've got to criticise him for the way they represented German football, because it's been towards the end with that Neuer incident. I've got to say it bordered on embarrassment, because this is not how German football has been represented over the last 4 or 5 decades. I got knocked out in the European Championship in the group stages, but you've got to conduct yourself in a certain way, and they didn't do that. And for me, that's a disappointing thing. They lost leadership. I think they lack players you can really rely on when the chips are down. But that's one side on the pitch. I think what goes all on off the pitch and the way you represent your country, that's really the thing that disappointed me. So they will face huge criticism. The manager, I think the team manager, Oliver Bierhoff, who didn't really handle the Erdogan thing before the tournament well. So there'll be question asked. The manager extended his contract before the tournament for another 2 years, so he's got 4 years left. It'll be very interesting what the thoughts of the FA are, what the press make of it. So a lot of questions, because last year we thought we are unbeatable for the next decade after winning the Confed Cup, and within 12 months we're back down to earth. Yeah,
just before we go to break, Michael, could I ask you, because you were here with us for the Confederations Cup and we saw Germany, very impressive, and it was essentially termed a German B team, second string, because of all the young players. But when we saw them win that, we thought, wow, when they combine the experienced players that will come back into the side and then all those young players who did so well at Confeds, Germany will be a real threat again. Why do you think that hasn't materialised?
It's a mystery, to be honest. You're right. I thought the German squad was getting stronger because the likes of Goretzka, the likes of Rudi coming in. Their under-21 team had won the European Championship as well, so we know there's another generation of talent to come through. But I think, again, we've seen this before with teams come in. We saw France come in as defending champions, not get through the group. I think we saw Spain as well, not get through the group in 2014. So it can happen. It can happen, and as I say, the fragility that we would not expect to be in Germany and a German team as experienced as this, unfortunately, it was there from day one in the tournament.
Yeah, so once again, it has been proven that the World Cup is extremely difficult to retain. Italy and Brazil still the only countries who have managed to do so. So 3-0 victory for Sweden, but it means, of course, lads, that Mexico and Sweden go through. So possibly, with Germany going out, this wasn't the way this group was supposed to pan out, was it?
Certainly not as I thought it would. It's your day when goals went in like that for Sweden. To be fair, the first and the third goal in particular, slice of good fortune to it. But, I mean, what odds would we have got, Didi, on Germany finishing bottom of the group? It's phenomenal, really.
So of those two, Didi, who do you think can make further progress into the competition? I mean, Mexico having started so well with the win over Germany, and now sort of finishing the group on a downer, really, with a 3-0 hammering, you'd have to say.
Yeah, they seem to have peaked in the first game against
Germany.
Germany. I'm not too sure. There's a few teams in the draw. If you look at Uruguay, if you look at Denmark, if you look at Croatia, I've got to say I fancy them. I fancy them more than these two teams. The Swedes will be hard to break down. I'd probably give the Swedes more of a chance, depending who they play in the next round. I'd give the Swedes more of a chance than Mexico, because we shouldn't forget that we saw a different South Korea than we did in the first two games, and Germany was very much off colour. Maybe one more round for the pair of them, but I don't see them going any further.